What is up, guys? Thanks again for joining me, and today we're taking it back to the beginning and we're looking at the bass again. And my idea today is to show you guys a very quick and easy technique to create some compelling bass MIDI sequences and patterns for your tracks. So let's dive in and have a quick look. So at the moment, our MIDI pattern for our bass is looking rather boring. It's literally just one note being played repetitively all the way through. And to usually sort of add momentum to and energy to the track, I like to bring in a sort of, I would say melodic or sort of more groovy bass line, incorporating different notes and stuff. And often it can be quite a laborious task to create something that actually sounds very cool. And it's often a sort of backwards and forwards and kind of listening to the loop on repeat for sort of days on end until you come up with a groove that actually works. But I've come up with a little system that kind of makes the whole process a lot easier, and I want to show you guys. So the idea is, say for example, we've got our bass line and it's one note going all the way through at the moment. So what I like to do is I will duplicate a sort of 8-beat section or 2-bar section. I'll sort of duplicate it out of the loop that I'm working in. Let me just make this bar a little bit shorter, and I can actually delete that for now. So what I want to do here is I want to grab my scissor tool and zoom in a little bit over here, and I want to cut it on the sort of second kick of this little MIDI clip that we've got. But if you hold Alt and cut, you'll notice that it cuts it sort of consecutively at the same rate all the way through. So now we've broken our pattern up into 8 different single beat MIDI sections. So what I like to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and color them all differently, just to make things a little bit easier. So the idea now is I want to put some kicks over these, and I will loop each sort of 1-beat section, and I will edit this loop to a sort of repetition that sounds really cool. So generally speaking, I'll only change 1 or 2 of the notes, not all 3 of them, because I don't want to create too much of a melodic progression style MIDI, but I just want to kind of create more of a groove. So well, let's say for example the first one, let's just leave flat so we can have some flat sections in the bass. And because we're working in the minor scale, I'm going to transpose just randomly any one of these 3 notes up or down any amount of semitones that sort of corresponds with the scale. So let's say for example for this clip, let's move this one up 3 semitones, 1, 2, 3, and then let's move to the next one. Let's say for example move the middle one up 2 semitones, 1, 2, and then let's say for example move this one up 7 semitones, etc, etc, etc. And what I've done is I've actually pre-baked a section over here which has a bunch of sort of cool MIDI sequences that I actually use quite often in tracks. What I'll do is for my $5 Patreon supporters, I'll actually upload these little clips. I mean, it's not much, but it's something cool to actually get you going, get you started very quickly. And you'll notice with these ones is they're all tuned to the note C, so you can just transpose it to whatever the track is that you're working in. So then the idea from there is to loop a section over here while you go ahead and just randomly copy these in and move them around. And it's so much easier to kind of do it like this with the blocks than it is to open up a MIDI and edit the, each individual note as you go, because this way you're able to kind of audition the entire sequence as you're kind of throwing in your building blocks that you've already sort of decided sound cool, if that makes sense. You've kind of broken down the process into sort of easier to manage tasks. So again, I've actually pre-baked a section here with the sort of idea that I was explaining. And you'll notice that I like to kind of keep a lot of the flat elements going, and so it'll be sort of the red one, which is flat, and then, I'll kind of just vary it as I go through. And the cool thing about doing this is now at any point I can say, for example, change the position of some of the clips. So I can create a slightly varying groove as I'm sort of building up the energy of the track. Or say, for example, this is going to be like our final drop bass line, but we don't want to kind of give away too much groove too quickly in the track. What we can do is we can kind of start removing a few of these elements and replace them with the red or the flat MIDI notes. So just to give you an example why I sort of use this and why I find it such a sort of powerful element in my workflow. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick listen to what the final effect sounds like over here. And then once I've built my sort of individual different loops of bass, then what I'll go ahead and do is I'll just select them and click this glue tool over here, and poof, Bob's your uncle. Now you've got that entire sort of segment made into one sort of easier to work with bass MIDI pattern. Let's just change the color of this so it's easier to deal with in the track. So now what I've got is a sort of a part B. And now I can go ahead and create a sort of lead up to the part B by, as I said earlier, removing some of these groovy elements and, replacing them with the more flatter sort of MIDI notes like this. Cool, like I mentioned, I'm going to be uploading these little bass Lego blocks, I could call them, to my Patreon for my $5 supporters. So if you guys support me on Patreon, definitely head on over there and grab these. It's a quick and easy sort of tool to get some pretty compelling bass melodies going very quickly. So definitely check those out. A big thanks to IDM Mag, proud supporters of the dance music scene and my channel. If you want to support me and what I do on my channel, head on over to my Patreon and check out the different pledges I've got for you there. Like I said, you can grab these little MIDI patterns that I've created and so on and so forth, alongside a bunch of other content that I make regularly. Otherwise, if you haven't yet, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. See you guys next time.